All right, Rebels. Today we're diving into one of the most overlooked and misunderstood blind spots in the creator economy: visibility. Not algorithms, not thumbnails, not posting more or staying consistent. I'm talking about the internal friction that shows up before you hit record. The fear, the hesitation, the inner critic that quietly sabotages your confidence, your consistency, and your connection with your audience. And to guide us through that terrain, I brought on Jenny C. Cohen, an interactive neurosomatic practitioner and visibility expert who helps creators, leaders, and high performers regulate their nervous system, silence self-doubt, and show up with grounded magnetic presence. Jenny isn't coming at this from theory. She's lived it. From an award-winning dancer to global momentum expert, from performance to somatic coaching, she's spent over 2 decades studying what actually happens in the body when people are asked to be seen on camera, on stage, and in leadership. This episode isn't hype. This isn't mindset fluff. It's about understanding why creators freeze, burnout, disappear, and how embodiment, clarity, and presence change the game entirely. If you're a podcaster, a YouTuber, or a creator who knows your message matters but still feels resistance every time that camera turns on, this conversation may completely change how you show up. So strap in. It's time to stop performing and start leading. Today, we are sitting down with Jenny C. Cohen, an integrative neurosomatic practitioner and visibility expert who helps creators, leaders, and high performers silence their inner critic and show up with grounded magnetic presence. Most podcasters and content creators think their biggest challenges are strategy, gear, or algorithms. Jenny sees something deeper. She works at the intersection of embodiment, nervous system regulation, and confidence, helping creators understand why they freeze on camera, losing consistency, or struggle to connect with their audience, even when their content is solid. Through her spotlight confidence formula and decades of experience in performance, movement, and somatic coaching, Jenny teaches creators how to show up confidently on video without forcing a persona, build consistency through clarity instead of willpower, create deeper audience connection through presence, not performance, and leading communities by how they show up, not how loudly they market. This conversation is about what happens before you hit record and how mastering that moment changes everything that comes after. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, John.
Um, you've worked with performers, leaders, and high achievers for decades. What originally pulled you toward visibility and embodiment work?
I think that what pulled me in that direction was when I started my nonprofit in Salt Lake City, Utah. At the time when I named it Raw, Real Artists Within Epiphany, it was for an audience of adult learners in a particular fusion community. Um, I found belly dancing as a way to get a break from my kids. And then it was brought to my attention that I didn't know enough about the source countries and cultures we were drawing from in this country. So I pulled back out of teaching more traditional belly dance and went into fusion. And I discovered in the fusion community, mostly adult learners. We wanted to grow as artists and we didn't really know how, and we didn't know how to receive criticism. We took it as criticism instead of feedback. And so people would have this push-pull where people would enter competitions and then get really upset because they thought, well, I'm really strong in this one technique and I'm in fusion, which never really means anything. Why didn't I win? And meanwhile, here I'm on the other end of it, John. I've spent a year listening to my music. I've put it back together. I'm thoughtful about my costuming and the story around it. And I was thinking to myself, you put on a song on your improv tour, which is beautiful. What was your story? Like, did you do anything before you got on that stage? And when I started to coach people on that, I realized, oh my gosh, everyone's in their own spotlight all the time. We're just not aware of it. All right.
Mhm.
And I think that if I'm having a bad day or you're having a bad day and you walk into a crowd, for me, I'm like, why didn't that person get out of my way? Do you not sense me here? Like, why do I have to be, excuse
A
me,
little bit.
loudly 3 times? Exactly. If I'm having a good day, John, and I've slept well, or at least understand why I didn't sleep well if it was a bad night's sleep, and I've taken extra precautions to guard my energy and taking care of myself in the way my body needs, and I'm in constant communication. I walk into that crowd, people part. They know I'm coming. They can sense I'm coming, and they will make their way. Or I just have to whisper, excuse me, and people will hear me.
Hmm.
So the perception of your life actually will structure how your life really is. And being a podcaster or someone who wants or has a calling to be a voice, I tell my performers, once you say I want to perform something or you commit to a show, whether it's a formal show or an informal show in someone's studio, you're now asking to be a conduit for some message that's being put through to you. And how clear can you make your channel? How
Hmm.
clear do you need to be so that it's not about your agenda, it's the message that has to come through. So when I perform, my goal is to only touch, my focus is if I can just reach one person, they feel less alone when they see me perform, and they know that I know what they're struggling with behind the scenes, then I've done my job that day. Right? So when you're podcasting, know if you get the call or you've been shown signs you need to podcast, you're meant to be here. Now, how do we protect you? Because it does take its toll,
Mm.
especially behind the scenes, all right? And how do you be as clear as possible for this work that you've decided or are willing to undertake?
Very cool. We'll get into
Mhm.
protecting yourself because I'm experiencing the setback of pulling a 3 a.m.er right now. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, most creators think confidence is something that you either have or you don't. From your perspective, what do they misunderstand about it?
Yes, confidence is a muscle. It's a muscle you learn to exercise in different settings. Okay? And I want to be really clear. There are people who can fake it, and we think that that's confidence. And that's a persona and or a mask, right? Because certain people I know in my life who are the communities perceive them as big players, because I'm so grounded in my own frequency. Like I know who I am, how my needs are met. I know the days they're faking it, and it's not confidence. They're just falling back on some older, proven. People will perceive them as confident, and I feel and know they're not feeling confident that day. So confidence is the ability to know how you can control yourself in the moment. And that shifts because sometimes you're in a setting you know everyone and everyone knows you. And you know if you make a blunder, people got your back and they'll forgive you on the spot. You're not as confident if you enter a complete room of strangers and you know no one. And you might have had a bad morning and you walk in there and your first thing you think of, sometimes I've had this conversation with certain clients before. They're like, oh, I walk in, I feel like, oh yeah, I make the lowest amount of money in this room. And so then for some reason they'll put this value on themselves, has their own right in the room type of thing. Right. So for those clients, we work on the fact that they have to remember everybody in that room had to put on their underwear that day. Everybody in that room struggles with feeling loved. It doesn't matter how many zeros are in their bank account after the one. Everybody in that room has to go poo, right? And when you humanize that, the need to feel like confident starts to diminish. And when you see yourself as one of everybody else, all the same, connected, then the need to feel confident isn't necessarily anymore an obvious thing that you need to focus on. When you're focused on the humanity of everybody around you and knowing that we're all connected, that will boost your confidence.
So it's like trying to see that, no matter what, everybody's pretty much on the same level field. Doesn't make a difference of, oh, this guy or this girl has 1 million subs on YouTube and I only have 35. And it's like you said, like it's that it's like trying to see them as, what, they were where I am. And at one point in time, where do we get this wrong? Like, how do we see these like superstars kind of thing? I hate using that
Yeah.
terminology because, like you said, they're just people just like everybody else. They've just been at it a lot longer than we have.
Yeah.
Um, where do you think that we've got it wrong?
I think that we forget to bring along the skill sets and the self recognition of your achievements from these compartmentalized groups that we put ourselves in. So, for example, if I were to walk into a room of entrepreneurs who have been making six figures, I would feel inadequate because, well, I'm nowhere close to six figures, right? However, I know I have coached junior Olympians to gold and silver medals, right? I know that I was a really accomplished hand therapist before I got pregnant with my fraternal twins. I know I homeschooled two kids from kindergarten to college, and they were straight A client, like student learners in college, right? And I know I am board certified in integrated neurosomatic um, 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 practitioner. So I know these things. And when I remind myself of the accomplishments that I've had, like I've been married 35 years. That's a big job, John.
Congratulations!
Thank
Not
you.
many
So,
people can say that.
right. So like I survived breast cancer when I could have easily given up during the treatment. So when I embody the things that I've already achieved and I walk into that room of entrepreneurs, right? Then it levels the playing ground in my mind. It doesn't matter what they think of me. Remember, that's their business, not yours. It's more, what do you think of yourself in that moment? John, before we had a conversation about your job search, like your job situation, like you're really skilled. If you bring that anytime you're meeting someone who is, well, like I got 100,000 subs or whatever, right? That version of you walking into a room with, like at Podfest, all the accomplished people, to me, you're the same because you have such a strong skill set already. Doesn't that make sense? I don't see them. Honestly, I'm very, very new to the whole stars of podcasting. So I treat everybody the same. When I hire teachers to come to my events, I've already tested them out. Why? When I go to dance events, people don't know who I am. I'm known as a Leah Jenny in the dance world. And I know everybody. I know everybody. However, when I go to dance classes, I've, got my hair up. I'm wearing glasses. Performance, I'm wearing contacts and giant fluffy lashes. And I'm in a sparkly costume. And I watch to see how people treat me before my performance, when I'm in class with them, and after my performance. Or they see me being greeted by the big stars of belly dance that I know most of them, especially the fusion instructors, because I've taken classes with them, I sponsored them. And there's a big difference. And if I note that difference, I'm not going to hire that person for my events because I want them to greet every single participant in my events like they're equals. That's really big deal to me. And so I don't really care who's big in the podcast. If you don't look at me like I'm a human being, I don't really care what you have to suggest to me because I'm like, we're on a different frequency because you think you're so high above me. Then you're not really part of my needs right now. I want people to look at me like I'm a whole person, not numbers, right? And I would ask anyone who's listening to or watching your podcast, if you have an idol and you walk up to them and they don't look you in the eye and greet you like you're a human being, take them off your list. That's straight talk. Straight talk. They had to go to the bathroom and they needed water and they had to eat just like you and me.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100%. I don't have any more idols anymore. Well, I do, but they've been, their time has passed about 2,000 years ago. So I don't. But anyways, that's for a different podcast. um, I had a very interesting conversation with a potential guest last Thursday. This is Saturday that we're recording this right now, and thank you for coming on. I do appreciate. I understand that you actually practice Sabbath, so I do appreciate you coming on. We had this conversation. Like, I wanted her to come on to my new podcast called Unmuted, where we talk about public speaking and their journey into public speaking. And she was like, I don't feel comfortable going in front of a camera. When I hit that record button, I get all nervous. And I'm like, you speak in front of 100 people. It's a camera. What is that thing that makes people just freeze in front of just a camera, where it's like, I can edit this if I wanted to.
Yes. And all right. You ever take a picture or you look in the reflection and then you go out and someone takes a picture and you're like, I did not look like that in the mirror. There's an unpredictability to our reflections that women are very leery of. Okay? Because we're held to many standards, some of which we don't know about until we break it. Because they just, there are unspoken rules about femininity and beauty, symmetry that's expected. When you're live in person, that's not as expected. In video and pictures, we're held to a higher standard. Also, women historically, men too, I think, I'm going to just to say everybody, people have a hard time watching themselves on video. Mm-hmm. They just hate it. Because our perception is what we're seeing, not what we're really seeing. Okay, so you're looking at someone and your brain is already telling you what you're seeing versus what are you really seeing? You're already making judgments. Oh my God, what's wrong with my left nostril? Why is it doing that? No one sees the left nostril but you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I learned this very important other muscle that is important to exercise and learn about. Is the Care Bear stare muscle, right? When you watch babies dancing, are we critiquing their actual technique? We're just like, oh my God, you're so freaking cute. Look at your little waddle butt and little face. All right. You want to cultivate that stare for yourself on video. That's a skill. Okay. Right now I'm doing 100 days of dance and I'm being very public about it because not enough of us, most people published snippets where we look really good. We don't show you the awkward moments. And I was like, this process, which I did 3.5 rotations of during my cancer treatment, really kept me very in my body at a time when you want to escape it. Chemotherapy is god awful. No one is honest about it. I'm going to tell you the truth. John, I don't recommend it for anyone. Not even like my enemies. I would excuse them from that. So during that time, I really had to disassociate from it, and dancing would pull me back into my body and keep me really present. Now, the irony is that I had to look at myself every day on video and say 3 things that I liked about myself and 1 thing that I would change, not that I don't like, that I would maybe try differently the next time I dance to the song. You randomly pick 5 songs and you rotate through the songs with a prompt. So there's 20 prompts and you rotate through your 5 songs that you put on a playlist. So like the first one was just freestyle to the song and have fun. And you videotape yourself and you look at it. And you have to pick 3 things you like about what you did. And it becomes a skill. And so if you're learning on how to see yourself on podcasting, same type of thing. Take your camera and video yourself for 30 seconds. That's all. And tell yourself a joke. Recite the colors of the rainbow. Count 1 to 10. Go back and give yourself 3 pointers you liked about what you did and 1 thing you would shift. Mm-hmm. You do that every day and start extending your period of time to 2 minutes. You can start practicing your introduction of yourself. your elevator pitch, right? Over time, it'll start to slide off your tongue. You'll be much more comfortable. There'll be less ums and ahs and eyes going to the side as you're thinking because you're trying to figure out what you're saying. And you start to realize, oh, if I look at myself straight on, I like the way I look. But I have this weird hip tilt that I have to shift that I don't like, right? You're your own best coach on how you want to be perceived in the world.
I like that. I like that. I just don't care how I I don't care.
You know what I'm taking a sip of my coffee.
Yeah, that's all good. My biggest thing, and I think a lot of people out there, their biggest holdback from doing podcasting and from doing content creation is the way they sound. When a person hears themselves talk, and I struggled with this as well. It's like, I don't sound like that. But then I realized I actually do sound like that.
Yes. What you're hearing in your head is different from what is actually coming out of your mouth. Okay? And when we get nervous, we tend to come out of our lower body speaking, and it comes up into our chest or our throat, and sometimes even our head. Singers talk about the head voice, the throat voice, the chest voice, the stomach voice, the back of the throat voice, right? For me, the biggest thing is if you have trouble speaking in the voice you want to be heard I have my clients do muscle testing, John, which is a way of asking your body questions, right? It has sometimes to do with the past not being allowed to speak your needs. And you want to explore that a little bit. Okay. For me, before I started really healing, and especially like my past as a child, I would have a lot of trouble, and I would always hear my voice outside and go, I sound like a baby. Like, why am I talking like that? I was like, oh my gosh, how does anyone take me seriously? Then as I healed, I noticed that my voice would drop an octave when I was really comfortable. If I was just talking to my friends, and it's different if I'm telling a joke and I go up and down in my pitch.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm really comfortable, I'm usually down here, right? And then I realized, oh, as I was healing, I could sing when before I could never sing. So if you really, really want to improve the quality of your voice, you can get access to free YouTube videos on how to start training your voice. And it's a muscle. So the whole structure of the throat is actually pretty complicated. And I don't have the time to go into the anatomy of it. However, because as an occupational therapist, I used to do swallowing studies. We would look and watch someone eating to make sure it's going down the opening to your stomach versus into your airway, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very complicated. And it's also, again, very easy to train it because you can do it during the videoing. So you can practice speaking from your stomach, like inhaling and then exhaling as you speak. You could practice, you can physically like lift your chin up and you'll feel a difference, a tightening in the throat, and you'll hear your voice go up, and you can hear it and watch it in the video, right? And the goal is to be able to separate muscle contraction, like your diaphragm, from your voice. Okay, so for example, if you take a breath in and then you're speaking and feeling like you can talk out loud, right? But then your stomach's relaxing as you're speaking. And then your stomach's contracting as you're speaking. If you're marrying the speaking with the out loud voice, then you are not disconnecting them. So you're now relying on breath. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Because like for dancing, I could dance and talk to you at the same time. I can do chest lifts. I can do shoulder rolls. I can do a stomach thing that you can't see right now because I can separate them. Your goal is to learn to do that, where you can be opening and closing your stomach muscles while counting out loud, backwards, forwards. And that will give you more control of your voice.
Very cool. Very cool. I do understand that. I studied Russian martial arts for 10 years almost, and the biggest thing that we had is breath control. Yes. And that controls everything. Controls your emotions, it controls your movement, it controls everything. Your thinking, your thought process. If you stop breathing, you stop thinking. You stop moving, you're going to get into a world of hurt. So for the first thing that we teach is how to breathe properly. And it's like you said, like it goes from from your nose to your mouth, from your nose to your throat, from your nose to your chest, from your nose to your diaphragm. We even go even further down to your pelvis, down to your knees, down to your feet, into in and out through your hands. Like it's um it's a very central part of the entire martial art that I haven't done it in about 10 years. And
Might be time to pick it back up, John.
yeah.
You sound excited when you talked about it. I mean, seriously.
I loved it.
Yeah. If you would even, if I may be so bold as to suggest, come up with some exercises for podcasters to do to connect with themselves related to what you just described, it would be awesome for your audience, because part of using your voice is you're taking your power back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And a lot of people don't give themselves permission to do that subconsciously.
Yeah.
And they do that breath work that you just suggested. Even their subconscious, like their body that resists it, will buy into it.
Yeah, very cool. I have not thought about that. That is a good idea. I think I will do that. Thank you for that. We are in a time of year where people are highly, highly, highly motivated to do so many things. And I think we actually just passed the cutoff where 40% of people actually drop off for their New Year's resolutions. And it's funny because we were talking about this in my last Toastmasters meeting, is what is your New Year's resolutions? And I told him I wanted a boring year. Sorry, I know I said that while you're taking a swig of coffee.
I think you're doing that on purpose. That's okay.
And as an ex-personal trainer, we used to thrive off of people's motivations and highly motivated people coming into the gym. And we knew exactly what was going to happen. They're going to come in all rah, sis, boom, bah. I'm going to get fit for this year. 2025 is my year. 2026 is my year. And by January 10th, the gym is empty.
Yeah.
Why does motivation fail? Why do you think motivation fades so quickly, even when creators are deeply, deeply, deeply rooted into their message?
Okay. The cheeky side says it's because of the tech. Like, tech is a pain in the ass. Okay. I'm just going to tell you, it's a pain in the butt. If you don't have someone to handle it and one thing blows up, you're stuck until you can get someone to save you. That's going to be I'm going straight with that. The tech sucks. Okay. Because I'm Asian, y'all, and I freaking hate tech, and tech hates me. That's it. However, aside from that, there is the reality of the energy that we put out in podcasting makes us vulnerable. Okay. And if you're not filling or fortifying yourself outside of your podcast, it will drain you. Just flat out. I'm being honest, because you're projecting energy out through your podcast. And if you take a step back, they used to say, you can't give him an empty well. My take was, does your well even have a solid bottom? Are your walls solid? Are they cracked? Did you take a look? Right? Because sometimes we inherit wells from family or culture that's not really a strong foundation. So take a step back and be like, oh my gosh, like, how can I actually speak with a strong, clear voice when I have not taken care to water myself enough, feed myself enough, and dare I say, TMI moment, did I go poo? Like, stuff like that. Are you taking care of yourself enough so that when you elect to be a channel, you're super clear? Because there will be days when you may need a break and you may need to help. And you may have to ask a friend, oh my God, you have to ask for help. Like, be like, oh my gosh, I really need assistance with this. Who can help me? And then be open to it. Mm-hmm. Because the world of podcasting is actually very, very close-knit once you really want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. People will go out of their way to help you. They'll be like, what do you need? for me, it was trying to figure out, even when I was doing voiceover training during the panini, the lockdown, I call it the COVID lockdown, the panini. During that period of time, I did voiceover training, and I was asking, well, I can't afford those expensive $300 mics that they wanted us to get. Right. And people are like, no, just get this toner mic. I'll show you. This toner mic from Amazon at that time was $40. It's like $30 now. This is also another thing that helped with my voice, right? Because I have like a broadcaster voice with it on versus the weird whiny one off the computer, right? And so from that, yeah, that's what I would start with, and then you can be like, all right, are my goals realistic, right? Because when I started podcasting, it was a Friday episode every 2 weeks or twice a month. And then I bumped it up to once a week. And I've kept it going.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had to, when I couldn't afford the amazing Kay Souther from England, I had to corral my son into it because I wasn't going to do it. I wouldn't have hit 10% globally ranked on listed notes if I hadn't corralled someone to help me with it. Like, I was very realistic. There was a period of time I pretended that I was masking and pretending confidence with tech. No, I mean, I could manage Zoom very well now, but that's the extent of my tech, right? And then also be aware of something. Ready? I give you permission to be Asian, right? Chinese New Year's coming around. You got another New Year's coming.
Oh, awesome.
Right?
2 New Years.
I'm telling you. John, I have 3 New Years. I have the Jewish New Year, I have the Julian New Year, and I have the Chinese New Year. And then my birthday is also a New Year in July. Who said January 1st is going to be your only New Year a year? Give yourself the grace to restart anytime you need to. What rule was it that told you, oh, we're supposed to start January 1st? That's a dead of winter, y'all. No sane person in reality wants to start something in the middle of winter. Who wants to go out in the cold? So we live in really cold areas. I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark. Right? Yep. We're in the middle of like winter solstice. True New Year starts in another month or two.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
That's the Chinese New Year. Like, be Asian with me. Everyone's being Chinese now. That's fine. Hit your Asian era. Be clear, though, that the consistency is always layered with grace for yourself.
Well, it's interesting because, again, this is another podcast all in itself. It's interesting because even like most, I'd say about 90% of all ancient civilizations, their New Year's was either fall or spring.
Yep.
Because those were the key seasons where it changed. I know in ancient Greece, I'm Greek, that's why I know in ancient Greece, because I studied my history and I studied my ancestors. Our actual New Year's came in spring because it heralded the release of Persephone back into the world, bringing life back into the world. Mm-hmm. So that's how I know in ancient Greece, it was actually spring, yes, not January. I don't know why it changed.
It had to do with business. It had to do with business, right, John? Like, it was around commerce.
Yeah, makes sense. But again, it's a different podcast. Totally different podcast. But you brought up a really key point, and I have actually experienced this over the holiday break. Burnout. Burnout is one of those things that lingers on a podcaster's and creators' platform and over their lives, because they get all fired up. They're like, yes, I'm going to do all this stuff. And they start doing it. And all of a sudden the burnout comes in. How can you help people limit the amount of burnout and so that they can stay consistent with their content?
There are so many ways you can avoid burnout. Really, honestly, you can pre-record episodes as much for the future as possible. Like, we are now in January. I'm pre-recorded through February already. And someone else is doing the editing so that I'm just looking for guests. We're going to switch over to just Podmatch in the future. But I meet really cool people, and I'm like, "You want to be on my podcast?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then then they just jump in the line. That's one thing. Another thing that you can do to avoid burnout is understand that life happens. Life happens. We have no control over family members or yourself getting struck by an illness or an planned for expense that happens. Like our furnace went last year. We had to be like, oh, we have no furnace. So what do we do now? Oh, great. Let's take out, it was an HVAC line of credit to buy the furnace because it was the middle of winter for us, right? And that kind of stuff upheavals your entire schedule, everything, because you have no heat in the house. Or we also had to, I think we had to get a new water boiler because we had to flood it out in the basement. When things like that happen, the key is to, if you're going full tilt and all of a sudden you're like, I'm burned out. Okay, just be aware. There were signs along the way that you missed, right? And you don't just burn out overnight. Burnout happens because of a buildup of you ignoring your own needs. Be frank. Be honest with yourself. You're like, I'm burned out right now. And my question next would be, what have you been ignoring for yourself? Did you stop sleeping? Did you stop eating? Did you stop drinking? Did you stop pooing? I'm sorry, that's a big topic. Because a lot of times people don't acknowledge the BS behind the scenes stuff. And we're just trying to show this perfection. And then the cracks will start to show, right? If you've been ignoring that you needed a vacation free from worrying about everything outside the podcaster's life, and you haven't done it. Oh, sorry, my cat is now jumping on my table. Oh, my little fuzz. I have 10.7 cats. That's another podcast I'll tell you about.
Oh, wow.
John just, I think his eyeballs blew up, y'all. and our whole family has asthma. Anyways, so if you've been ignoring your needs, your burnout comes faster. Okay. For me, when I got breast cancer, I was at my highest health I've been in since before my kids were born, and they were 14 at the time. I was at my strongest, quote unquote. I thought my healthiest. I was at my thinnest, and I got breast cancer.
Wow.
Right? I burned myself out because a month before, my husband went in the hospital for bowel obstruction surgery. And then 3 years before that, my son had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And then my in-laws went insane during that period of time. So I'm managing my husband in the hospital. My 2 kids were sleeping in the car with the dogs with the engine running. I had to check on my son's blood sugar, and I was sleeping by my husband's bedside on 3 chairs. Back then, they did not have these pull-out beds. Out of the blue. So then I ended up with breast cancer. Why? Because I burnt myself out so much. My immune system said, I can't do this anymore, boo. Like, you didn't ask for help. You're trying to do everything. You think you're going to be a widow. Your husband might die. Your in-laws are yelling at you. I can't do this. Right? See what I'm saying? So
I understand where you're going.
The point is you could be at your healthiest, but if you're still ignoring your need for rest, then that's going to be a big alarm. That's going to be a scream for something else later. And then don't worry about your podcast at that point. You're going to be worrying about bigger things.
Right. I know this is a very personal question, but it kind of like falls into what we're trying to talk to. The reason why I say it's personal is because it's different for everybody. Like, I have certain signs that I see in my life where I'm like, oh man, I'm starting to get burnt out right now. What are some signs that you experience when you start to feel that burnout come? And what do you do to get out of it?
Okay. I love this question. So, in our culture, for a woman, maybe a man too, but a woman, the scale is the enemy. That damn scale is the enemy, unless you're working out a lot and you're just naturally endowed with muscles, right? Which very few of us are, especially after menopause, perimenopause. And I used to hate my scale. I would hate my scale. And then I actually fell in love with my scale when I started doing like physical training with an online company, because they have you put in your scale, like your weight once a week, and then you take pictures. And for me, John, I was like, well, I think I'm going to weigh myself every morning. So I was like, I don't want it to be a surprise that Friday when I got to submit, right? And then I started seeing a close association because they put you on a calorie deficit supposedly, and I love carbs, and they kind of ration your carb ratio versus your proteins and your fats, right? So I'm thinking, I want to do this because I've been in menopause, and then back in the spring, I also started hormone replacement therapy because my osteoporosis was completely out of control, and I was like, that was from chemo. Like I stopped getting my periods. Sorry, TMI for your audience members, but it's really important people understand this. You can get saved for your life, but then end up with problems from being saved later. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And right now, the rates of women dying from hip fractures is 3 in 10 women. If you get a hip fracture, you're kind of your percentage of survivorship has gone down to only 70%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was my hip fracture risk was increasing. That's why I went back on the hormones. Like breast cancer coming back or or hip fracture. Which do I pick, right? So I was like, hey, we'll just we'll do the hormone replacement. We'll start lifting. We'll get a person to make me accountable. And I was like, all right, let's make friends with the scale. And then I realized if my weight went across or dropped, I was good. I was eating enough, drinking enough, going to the bathroom enough, sleeping enough. If I saw my number start to climb, even by 0.5 ounce, I'd have to go back to my checklist. Did I eat enough? Did I drink enough? Did I go to the bathroom yesterday? Sounds like, can you stop that? I'm just being honest.
No.
Did I
Sleep
enough? Did I sleep enough? And my sleep was related because I did not realize 2 years ago, once we got my husband's sleep apnea taken care of, that I have sleep apnea. Right? So sleep is very important for all of us. Your quality of sleep is very important. Anyways, so those 4 things, if those things were good and my weight was still gaining, I would then look at my stress. What happened yesterday? Did something really upsetting happen and I didn't acknowledge or address it? Right? So for me, it's always been in the last 6 months since last July I started this. Weight is one thing, right? And also, if I get stressed, I don't go to the bathroom. So it's been this toggle of and then when my husband was in the hospital in October, November, I was really, really good with being all those. My weight was still steady or dropping during that period of time, but it was when he came home that I got stressed out and stopped working out, stopped sleeping, didn't eat. And then my weight went back up a tiny bit. And then it took me a while to calm down and feel like, oh, my husband's not going to die and I'm not going to become a widow. It took a long time for my whole nervous system to calm down. So for you, podcasters, audience members, like you want to start doing conversations with your body. Like, how is your body talking to you that you can understand in your present person? What does it need? What is it missing? Does that make sense? Because for me, I never would have used the scale, but my body's like, you won't listen to anything else, BITCH. Like, I'm telling you through aches and pains in your body, you ignore that. You're really good at ignoring your aches and pains. So how else can your body talk to you about what you need so you can avoid that burnout?
I know 100% what you're talking about. 100%. So we're going through something right now, and it's exactly how you said. Loved one is out of the hospital, back home, and you're like, it's more stressful now than when it was when they were in the hospital. So it's I'm tired more now than I was ever in my life, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Switching gears here quickly, let's talk a little bit about building community and the presence, being there in the community, not like kind of seeing it as a performance kind of thing. Because this is another thing that I see when I've been part of other communities where the person hosting the community feels like they got to put up this big show and these big lights and amazing backdrops and this and that. And it's like, I didn't come here for this. I came really for the content that you have to give me to teach me something.
Mm.
How would you help somebody to identify that point as, you know what, your community is not to show how big you are, but how to help somebody who's tuning in to help them?
All right. So, okay, I got good news and I got bad news. Which one you want first?
Let's go with bad.
Okay. Well, it's not so much bad as like a little bit of truth talk that might sting a little bit. Okay. Just because that person's community is not for you and I doesn't mean that they're not serving a purpose for someone else in that community. So for me, it's been realizing that when someone's show doesn't help me anymore, it's time for me to exit and find someone who does. Because that person, being a human, is doing the best they can from their perspective. And if they're going the wrong way, they'll figure it out. It's not our job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The goal is really, truly to understand there's so many communities out in the world.
Yeah.
There's so many options. And I'm truth talk here. Like for me, I got tired of looking, so I just built my own community. It was like, I want to do my own thing where we don't have to do that BS. And, you know, I have lots of backdrops. Like during the Panini lockdown, I got one of those green screen things and I was flashing all kinds of different things during my dancing stuff. And then I got tired of it and I didn't want the green curtain because I like green, but not that ugly green color up in my studio all day long. Because you all got to see it, but I didn't get to really experience it in my real life on this end of the camera. So now you just get a sparkle background. And behind that is actually like a beach scene. No one sees this, but your audience, oh my God, I'm here on a Saturday and they see behind the sparkle.
That's awesome.
So behind this is an actual sound absorbing panel that I stuck up on my wall that has the beach scene. Okay. And I'm going to ask you and your audience and me too, like, what helps you be comfortable in your own skin? That will shift over time. We are never the same. So as your needs change, your community needs will change. What you want in your community versus what you would want to be in charge of a community of. And you want to just be honest with yourself. Like, what would make you happy today? Not last week when you first signed up, or last month or last year. Right? Because also the person in charge of the committee shifted too. They might have needed more of that sparkle for whatever their reasons were. If it doesn't serve us, then you make a quiet exit. Like I just left a really, really cool community. And I've been drawing tarot cards on my TikTok. My TikTok was an account every day because I do tarot readings too and energy cards. But I was like, I'm not gonna do that on my Instagram, my LinkedIn, because the LinkedIn people will start going, "Wow, tarot cards!" And my Facebook communities used to me doing dance stuff. So the 100 Days of Dance on Instagram and Facebook, and then LinkedIn reminding people, you're allowed to rest. And then TikTok has been about tarot readings every day because my therapist is like, "Why don't you pick up a new thing, do it once a day?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'll do it for 100 days on TikTok. It'll keep me accountable." And my cards keep flashing like unity. I keep seeing these cards come up reminding me, Jenny, you need to stop giving so much. Like you want to be in relationship where it's reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was like, you're right. Because in the past, I'm always the cheerleader for everybody. And now I'm looking, this person that I've paid a lot of money to be a part of their community since 2020. Okay.
It's a long time.
That's a long time. That's a lot of moolah. Yeah. And also not just financial, but energy, attention. I've gone to their live events. They haven't followed me back on Instagram. They know who the fuck I am. Sorry, but they know who I am.
It's all good.
Right? And I don't have the thousands of followers that this person's following in all their accounts. So I just quietly unfollowed because I was kind of like, we're done. It's okay. They'll pop up. I'm in other things with them.
Fair
but
enough.
I don't need to follow them and have, because they gave a piece of advice I didn't really agree with. I was like, that's okay. They can go in that way. They'll come back when, they'll come back or not come back. And then when I unfollow them, all of a sudden across my feed flashed like 10 other people that really like grabbed my heart. And I went, oh, she was keeping me from those people. So just what you let go of opens your hand for really what's meant for you.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, I've actually done that myself. I've actually was part of a community, and the community itself changed, and it no longer served my needs. And it's one of those things where it's like you said, like you really have to have that self talk with you, not just with how you're feeling and trying to manage burnout, like we talked before, but it's also like, are the communities that I'm a part of still serving me? And it's no harm or foul to the community uh, owner, and they shouldn't take any offense to it. It's just you either outgrew them or they outgrew you. That's all.
Exactly. And just be, how people always, well, in the past, I would feel obligated to explain why. And, as part of your, like, you want my feedback. I'm kind of like, if you're leaving my community, it didn't serve you. You don't need to give me feedback. You can just quietly leave. I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm just, and also I don't try and offer reasons why I'm leaving, because my thing is, well, you could pay me to help you shift. Not doing it for free anymore. Unless you're a good friend like John. Like, I would come and show up on this on a Saturday. It's a little bit different, right? For someone that isn't really in your inner circle, so be clear who's in your inner circle versus who's in your outer circles. Inner circles get everything. There's no questions asked, but certain people you may need to, in your mind, move them to the outer circle,
Yeah.
because you're not in their inner circle. So there's no need for you to include them in your inner circle, because then it becomes fraught with misunderstandings and resentment starts to build when we don't need that anymore. 2026 is permission to quietly exit places that don't serve you.
That's a good one. Like I said, my 2026 is just about being boring. As boring as possible. We are coming up close to the end of the show, and these are the 5 questions I ask every single guest, and I just want to get your perspective on these 5 questions. If you could go back to day 1 of your journey, what would you tell yourself before stepping into this kind of visibility?
I am enough. That's it.
Cool. That's good. When fear shows up and the inner critic gets loud, what actually brings you back into your body?
Besides dance,
Yeah,
besides
besides.
dance, it's just the reminder that it's not about me. It's about the message.
Okay. What's a moment where visibility felt terrifying, but choosing presence changed everything?
When my friend sent me a screenshot from Listen Notes that my podcast was ranked top 10% globally.
That's always great.
That scared the living F out of me. So, I was like, I want a tiny little podcast. Now I have to rebrand and look really good.
Or not, just keep doing what you're doing, because apparently there's a line of success there.
Yes. Well, the podcast was started originally for breast cancer survivors, and it was called Dance to Heal, to allow people to know there's more than just medicine to heal. There's so many more things to do after a catastrophic thing like cancer, and then evolved into life as a dance.
Cool. How has your definition of success evolved as you've learned to lean from embodiment instead of achievement?
That where I am now, I am worthy of.
Cool. If this mic went dead right now, what final message would you want every creator or podcaster struggling to be seen or heard?
Make sure you play every day. Play every day. That's going to keep you young, and it's going to keep you really present. And I say play, not the kind of play where there's a winner. Like, just play for the joy of playing.
Cool. That's awesome. We forget play and how important it really is in our lives. Jenny, thank you for sharing your insights and experience with us today. Your work reminds creators and podcasters that confidence isn't about pushing harder, it's about learning how to feel safe enough to be seen. All right, Rebels, remember this: your voice has power. Every episode you record, every story you tell, every time you hit publish, you're not just making noise, you're making history. Don't wait for permission. Don't play small. The world needs your voice raw, real, and unapologetic. Keep creating, keep pushing boundaries, stay bold, stay sharp, and as always, long live the rebellion.